Hey everyone, welcome to week 4 of the Digital Product Creative Challenge. We've got Flynn here.
Hi.
We're going to be wrapping up. We're going to be chatting about what we've done the last 3 weeks. It's going to be good.
Yeah,
Excited.
I've never sat on this side of the desk.
Yeah, it must be a strange feeling for you.
It's super weird. It's like
out of
I'm a
place.
talented designer. I'm
You're
not.
talented.
No way. Hi everyone. This is really exciting. So if you've been following along this month, we've been focusing on user experience using XD, but also the process of digital product design, I guess, and like that real world example of iterating, sketching, testing, which you talk about so well. And it's been amazing watching it, being involved in the first one and now coming at the last one, to kind of have a bit of a recap. It's been really exciting, and we know some people have been challenging themselves and getting involved for the first time in XD, which is cool.
Yeah. Shout out to Peter, because Peter sent this message to me, I think around week 2, or week 3, and it was such a great message to see, because he was saying that he's 70, he's just learning and teaching himself XD, he's been following along, and that stuff just makes our day. Like, it's so good that people are actually getting a lot from this. So yeah, shout out to Peter, keep doing your awesome stuff. And I think we'll kind of get to this a little bit as I recap and get through to like what's next and stuff, but like I just think, you know, from here, like it's really about going out and testing things, and giving it a go. Like don't it can feel a little bit intimidating and a bit unapproachable. And I know when I started to get into product design, it was sort of, where do I start? And I think a lot about this is, I've been thinking about this a little bit lately, because I think I want to write a little bit about this process, but essentially this is sort of the type of resource that I wish I had when I was starting out. Something that's a bit more realistic, something that's not like, here's how to make this really pixel perfect, beautiful one screen for Dribble, but like, what's the process like, and how do you follow that, and how do you actually do this as part of like a job, and what do you like about it? So I think it's been really good to see people are following along, and I think we did have submissions open for people as well. So, you know, if you do have more things you've been working on from home, feel free to share it. You can share it with me on Instagram, share it with Flynn, like hashtag Adobe Live. Like, we'll definitely look and give you feedback and stuff as well. Like, it doesn't end just this week, and these episodes are going to be up for a while. So keep going.
Exactly. So we thought we might do a bit of a review of this process, and keeping in mind this is the sort of process you can apply to so many jobs, particularly digital product design, but almost all digital projects, or also a version of that. And I guess just on your point before about kind of getting into the field, and I think if we can encourage people that have potentially a graphic design background or a visual design background, or even no background but you're just creative, it's actually never been a better time to get into this field, just with the advancements of technology. If you have a Creative Cloud account, you literally have XD for free sitting in there. Even if you don't, you can sign up to a Creative Cloud account and have it for free right now. And there's all these free online tutorials. So it's really just a time investment at the moment, which has never actually been the case. So there's never been sort of a better time to get involved. So we're super excited about it. And we're also going to finish up with some community tools, like other places to go if you're just starting your user experience journey, or you want to kind of have a look around it. We've got a bit of inspiration as well, I think. Some local and international studios for you to check out, which we always take for granted. But then we thought, well, maybe we'll share that with you guys as well. So why don't we have a bit of a recap of the month that was. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. Cool. So I have just got a couple of slides. The whole session of the last 4 weeks, I've gone through these on my screen, but then I realized I was a dummy, because I can just preview this through my little preview button. So on XD, you just preview this, and now we can have them big on the screen. So much better. Only took me 3 weeks to figure that one out.
It's cool. We learned together on Adobe Live.
Exactly. So. Yeah, this is a safe learning space for everyone. Cool. So recap, what we were looking at for this was sketching, testing, and designing a new feature in an existing app. And that app was Wildcard, which is sort of like a banking app, or new sort of startup bank here in Australia. So we're in week 4, we're wrapping up and we're discussing things. We did week 1, ideation and sketches, we did prototypes and wireframes in week 2, and then we did production and polish in week 3. we had a problem. So we wanted to solve this one specific problem, which was how might we allow users to easily split a bill with friends. So taking kind of a universal problem and just applying some thinking and process to that. I'm just going to quickly jump into our final, I guess, prototype, which is this one here. So this is where we got to at the end of those 3 weeks. So I've got basically this little notification that pops up that says I've just spent this much and do I want to split it? So I'll click yes. I'll get taken to this page that has the sort of details of that transaction. Split with friends. I might want to add a friend to this split. I've kind of added like a few little tweaks to this since we last spoke about it, just to polish it up a little bit and make the prototype work quite nicely. I might want to search for a particular friend, and then I choose Maddie. So they've been added and click confirm. I might want to edit the amount on this, so I can just edit that. So I do a little slide to request. Obviously, if you could do more on that, and something that I do wish we could have had a bit of time for was a little bit of like custom interaction work. It's a little bit of like we could really get into that detail, and what XD does have that I really love is that you can export your files really quickly into After Effects, and from After Effects, you can really make those custom slick animations. And maybe maybe we can get into that in like a live stream or something at a later point.
Yeah, we can play around with that because there's a lot you can do.
It's a really big kind of area, and I think there's also some tools that are out there that make it really easy to go from After Effects into apps as well, which I'd love to teach you guys about too.
Just going back, if you don't mind, can you go back just there to the slide? We spoke about this offline as well. So when you were talking about this and giving this product walkthrough, something that was really interesting to me is designing for friction instead of designing against it, which is something I've actually never heard before. And so I was sitting up the back kind of going, oh, wow, this is like super interesting, like actually forcing the user, and you can say this better than I can, but in this design, like this interactive element was to actually slow the user down and make them think, well, I'm actually doing something important here, and making you pause and think. Because obviously we design a pattern that is so easy to use. We'll just do stuff and then go, wait, did I send that email? Did I send that calendar request? Oh my gosh, like I actually did that. You're actually designing to make people pause, which I think is a really interesting thing about designing for humans and not screens.
Definitely, and I think that also comes from things like user research. So that was directly from feedback that we heard from, and the Wildcard team had heard from people saying, like, I think part of the aim of what they're trying to do as a company is to make these sorts of things really seamless and easy, and like getting away from the like really old style banks and banking apps. But almost it was too easy for some people. I think that's what they were hearing was like they'd get so fast through this little flow that they would have sent the money, and I was like, I don't feel so comfortable about that. And you have to kind of also take into account things like context, and I guess in finance in particular, I think there's a lot weighing on you and there's a lot more at stake. So really incorporating a feature like this gives people a bit of a peace of mind to know that like they're not just going to accidentally send someone the wrong amount. And particularly on like this screen where you're trying to split with different people, you might have accidentally, the default on this, I've set it to basically split evenly. But you might have missed that you can change things or do that. So it kind of just, it gives you that pause, which within a fintech product, I think doesn't happen a lot, and I think it's really cool to be able to incorporate some of those things to it.
As is always the way, as soon as something is blaringly obvious to you, start noticing it everywhere. And I was noticing it in an email campaign app that we use all the time, and noticed that actually that they designed friction as well. So it's like, are you sure? So, which I've been using for a really long time, years even at this point, but I never really noticed it. And I think that's something also that's really interesting with digital product design in particular, is that once you really start paying attention and focusing on things like animation and UI, you'll notice that there are these patterns, and you'll notice that these things are all intentional, and they are designed by someone for a reason. Not always a good reason, but often a really good reason and based on research. So it forces you, and I encourage you guys to do this as well, like if you're thinking about getting into the field or looking around, is to just look at the apps on your phone, like even just the ones that you use every single day, and you'll notice some of this stuff. Yeah,
I think particular as well, like looking at, like in product design, we talk about patterns and we talk about, I guess, UI, UX patterns. So those are the things that I guess exist already that we don't necessarily even notice ourselves doing when we upload something on Instagram. But sometimes when we're creating a new feature, like I'll actually often I'll go to apps that I know that have a huge user base and how I kind of dictating what that pattern is, because then I can feel pretty sure that like what they're doing is probably well-founded in some research. People are familiar with that pattern, so it's not going to be completely foreign to them. And I think that's a really good starting point for when you're trying to like design something, and particularly a new feature, when you're sort of looking at like, where do I even begin? And I think using that as a reference is actually really, really cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. So yeah, just to finish this little flow, so they've basically updated this little this transaction screen to say that you're pending this split. I also added this little banner at the top here so that when you get notified that someone's accepted your split request, that comes through and you get a little tick here. And I've also updated the sort of transaction list so that on here I can see that I've split that transaction with someone. And then if I get out of this, there's also this little badge here that tells me there might be some updates on that. And that's basically it. Like, I think when I was kind of finishing up this, there's actually like probably a lot more to this little feature that we'd need to think about. But really it's just highlighting, I guess, the basics of this. You probably would run into scenarios where there's a few extra screens and things to design. So yeah, I think, but that's basically what we got to. And then what I'll do is I'll just flip back to our other one. So I'll just actually get out of this and get back to, so I just wanted to recap a little bit really quickly on like what we did each week, so that if you missed those, you can go back and have a look. But that might give you a bit of a sense of like basically how we got to that prototype. So in week 1, we really looked at a how might we statement to sort of frame the problem that we have. We looked at doing crazy eights and sketches, and we looked at using concept cards to test out those sketches and those ideas that we came up with. We just looked at a little something like these beautiful pieces of art, soon to be on loan at the MCA.
Right. Wow. It's part of Archibald, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, very exciting. Stay tuned. Then in week 2, we looked at taking what we learnt from those test objects, I guess the concept cards, and then putting that into a user flow, and then using that to build wireframes for, I guess, the product, and then prototyping that within XD, which looked a little bit like this. Again, you can go back and look at week 2, and we go into this in a lot more depth, but it's pretty simple. And that's something that I really love about XD is like, it's so easy to flick between the two. Like you literally tab between design and prototype, and you're pretty much there already. You've already got something. And each week this was really about finding ways to give you something that you can test with people. And if there's one thing you take out of all of this, it's like test. Go out, show people, get feedback. It's not sort of don't design in a vacuum. I think that's probably the one thing that, you know, is the biggest risk to designing products, is only designing for yourself.
Yeah. Well, because you never test. I've never tested personally. Never tested anything and not been like surprised at the feedback.
Yeah.
And even if you test with a bunch of other designers, like so often you just be astounded at how often it's the big button down the bottom right corner. Like how
did you miss it?
How did you miss it? But then everybody misses, and you're like, well, hang on. Maybe it's something I've done, and you dig it out. So it's super important.
Yeah, I think that's as well a really good point, is to like design with other people. It's not just about testing with users, but it's about collaborating with people as well. I always find that I do my best work with others, and I really encourage people to like get out and try some of these exercises, but do it with a fellow designer or creative as well.
Yep. Absolutely. And hey, Festus, I missed your little comment before, so how you doing?
So week 3, we looked at taking our wireframes, again, going back, looking at what we learnt from them, and then starting to craft a more polished kind of prototype. So using things like UI libraries, so bringing in kind of our assets and quickly dropping them in, exporting the assets that we've made. So if there's anything custom like icons or additional buttons, whatever that is that we need to hand over to a developer, we can kind of export them at the right sizes, the right formats, and then hand off. So I guess putting that, we talked a little bit about using something called Zeppelin, which is a kind of really great handoff tool that has an integration with XD. You might do it in a number of other ways. I think I talked a little bit about making sure that you talk to developers as part of that handover experience, and even just a one-on-one, like, here's what I've done and let's go through it, is great. But Zeppelin does make things a little bit easier to kind of look at all the values and, I guess, the code that might be going into styling those assets. So that was it. So you got Zeppelin at the top here, and this is like our little final prototype, which I also looked through. And altogether, we sort of ended up with this more or less polished feature that can now start to get integrated into the existing app, which is Wildcard.
So what would you do? My question, if I was in the audience, which I haven't, is what would you do next? Like, if we had more time, or what would the next step be?
Yep. Did I include this? Oh, there you go. I anticipated your question.
Actually wasn't rehearsed at all.
No, it wasn't, I promise. Look, I had what's next in terms of like, as a general wrap up.
Yeah.
I think in terms of what's next, now that I've got this feature, really crucial part is that you're always going to test and learn. Yeah. So the next part of this, if this was, it will be probably integrated into Wildcard, the app. The next part of this is to make sure there's metrics that we get from that. So we're getting data about how people are using it. Once it's live, we want to make sure that we're still going and talking to people and seeing how they find it. And then we're coming back and saying, all right, is this working how we thought it would work? Does it do what it should? How can we improve it? So the thing about product design is like and that's what I think is nice about digital. And I come from like branding and print way back sort of background where, you send off your final thing and like, well, if you misspelt something, it's done. Sorry. I love the fact in digital that it's so much about, nothing's like perfect necessarily. You get it out, you learn from people, and you can still improve things. So I think that's also like a mindset that I'd really encourage people to take with this, is that you can try something and put it out there, and don't be precious with the work. Don't feel like you need to make it perfect. It's really about refining as you go. And, every week you'll see Spotify and Instagram and like Facebook all updating the apps. Like they're not stopping that process. They're continuously improving.
Yeah, and constantly testing features and things like that. I mean, some of the big app developers will often release an app by itself under a fake name and go out and test it, and then go, oh, okay, that kind of works, and then just take it down and then potentially integrate it within their app as well, or release it as a separate side one. So everyone's constantly testing, because we're changing as well, like the way that people interact with technology, the way that different groups of people from like cultural areas to backgrounds to age demographics, voice, my gosh, AI, all that sort of stuff. Like areas. It's constantly changing, that no one knows everything. So the best way that we can do it is to test.
Yep. And then I guess in terms of what's next for, if you've started to make this or have a go at a few things on XD, like I would definitely encourage you to share a bit of what you're creating. And like I said, like feel free to just message me on Instagram. I can happily give you feedback on things, would love to do that. Try the process on another project. And I think like Flynn mentioned, like it doesn't have to be a digital project, but it is a process that does lend itself really well, but you can get feedback on anything. We just had Ramez in here who was talking about he often uses people around him to get feedback on his work. And it's like, he does digital art in Photoshop. So it really is something that you should just take from that and keep applying. And I did say, and find a team that you can kind of get more experience from. Like, I think from my perspective, I've always learned the most I can learn from other people. And I would really encourage that if you're really getting into product design and you feel like this is something that you want to pursue, definitely keep learning from these things, definitely keep doing tutorials, but also try and find yourself a team that you can get involved with, because that's where you'll definitely learn the most on the job from those sorts of things. And yeah, keep learning. Like, I think it's a pretty general statement, like standard, but
I think we all are.
Yeah.
On the sort of community thing, I love how you've gone 1, 3, 4, 4.
That's
just to buck the trend. Which is super
I don't
cool.
like numbers. Yeah.
I'm just giving you feedback so you
Very
can rate
edgy,
on your.
Yeah, I will.
Such a dick. So just on the community thing. So sometimes it can be hard, like if you're the one designer within a company that's trying to trying to learn, trying to expand. Sometimes it can be hard to physically have those people. Definitely physically hanging out with other designers will always make you better. But if you can't for whatever reason, I just want to sort of reiterate something that we bring up kind of every time we do XD is the huge XD community, which is a massive global community with lots of people in Australia and all around Asia Pacific kind of area. It is US based, but it's huge. There's like 10,000 people in there or something. Yeah. And they do reviews and everything like that. And actually, I might get you to bring it up on your screen just so we have a visual to check out, which is, sent to you on Slack, but actually maybe we'll just type it in. So Discord.
Let me just go to this.
Yeah, we'll just bring it up.
Holding music.
So yeah, so I mean it's just a huge community. So that's brought from the Behance team and the US Live team over there. They do amazing stuff. They work in the same building as the XD developer team and everything like that. So they are right in contact with them. And whenever new stuff comes out, they talk about it. They get people from the team in there and everything like that. It's pretty amazing. So this is Discord. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's used a lot, I guess, by gamers and things like that mostly, but it's really expanded out because you can just kind of jump in there, create like I guess because you can create like anything avatar, but you still have all the community things, so you can ban people and kick people out. So it's a really lovely community. Really encourage you to check it out. Like it would be, if anybody I know is interested in getting into Adobe XD or getting into user experience, digital product design, at any stage, I would recommend that they jump in here. They have moderators and mentors. They do creative challenges just about every day. So we did ours over a month. They do them over a week. So it's a huge, super valuable resource in there, and they can answer lots of questions as well.
I'm definitely going to trawl through this for some tips as well.
Yeah, there's so much stuff in there, and there's so much content, and it's constantly being updated and changing and everything like that. And it's a very giving community, so check that out.
Amazing. That kind of, I guess, segues pretty nicely into some resources and inspiration that I wanted to kind of touch on today, just to wrap things up. I guess when I was starting out, a lot of what I was trying to find is like really good inspiration for like companies that are doing really good work. I started out here by just listing some companies that are here in Australia and also just around the world that I think are kind of doing the best of the best work. They are agencies, so I sort of realised this late last night that I'd only include agencies. And what I did want to do is a bit of a shout out to in-house studios. There is so many really great in-house design teams, particularly at like apps like Spotify, for example, that have really great, I guess, not only teams doing really cool work, but also resources. I know Intercom actually have this amazing blog that they often put heaps of their resources up on. So I think like, while these are really good in terms of the agencies, and they're really good for also looking at like a diversity of work. So if you go into any one of these, you'll see like a number of different projects that are really, really awesome and, really kind of at that level where they're just doing the best kind of digital product work out there. But also just acknowledge there are also teams within, I guess, those products themselves that are doing really cool work too. So yeah, have a check of them out. And then I had a couple of resources which I want to talk about, and then you've got a couple as well that you wanted to quickly talk through. I just had on here, there's the XD, I guess, just on the Adobe site, there's like a support kind of site that has, it has all the learnings and the videos, and it has plugins, integrations. So that's a really good starting point to sort of figure out like what else can I do with XD that I may not have already kind of looked into yet. The middle resource is probably one of my favorite resources when it comes to product design, and it's called UX Collective. So it's just on Medium. Every week they've got a newsletter and they send out kind of super interesting essays and articles that people are writing about. So it's really kind of up to date in terms of like the current trends and things that are happening within product design around the world. And it's really, I guess, what I go to when I'm trying to find out how people are thinking about things or learning new I guess, thinking and ways to process things as well. So definitely check that out. And there's also XD Resources, which is another site that I was looking at, which have a lot of pre-made templates and things. So if you're kind of a bit hesitant to get stuck in, really cool to kind of look at what's out there already, download a few, play with them, see what's out there, and then you can start to build on that and make your own.
It's all good advice.
So did you have a couple as well?
I did. Did I send? They're in that a little Slack thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll get you to drive. But really, I mean, shout out to Behance. I mean, they're doing what we're doing, but like on a daily basis. So there's so much amazing content out there. I think Festus was in the chat was talking about it as well. They're just doing so much content. They do lots of XD stuff. So it is an amazing place to go. And you can watch the live stuff. You can watch the replays and all that sort of stuff. Amazing stuff. Mm-hmm. I think Festus was talking about Kyle T. Webster. Like it's for any content. He was just on there as well the other day. And then the other thing is this is letsxd.com. Which is created by Howard Pinsky, who is one of the Adobe evangelists. I think there's like 7 in the world or something. And he's focused on XD. And he does a lot with the Behance team there. But this is like an amazing go-to where do I begin place. So he just covers like certain topics. Like talking about how to import from other products, doing things with voice as well. Yeah, it's an amazing website, and I think they're planning on growing that resource over time as well. You know, creating snackable content so you can just do that. It's pretty cool, right? He has like the best job. Amazing. Letsxd.com is really good, and just another person that's out there that's creating YouTube content for design generally is Dansky. And so he just creates video, like basically tutorials on how to for just about every product under the sun. And he does amazing stuff with XD, but also Illustrator, InDesign, and lots of other products as well. So just an amazing resource if that's like how you learn. It's pretty great stuff.
That's an interesting point, I think, because some people are very much like visual learners, want to follow along, whereas others like... I'm a bit of a mix. I'm definitely more visual, but I also like to read a lot about things too, but not everyone's like that. I think a lot of people just prefer to kind of get on the tools and get into it to learn.
Yeah, and some people are set up to have like a second screen where they can have, a whole, someone else's whole screen mirrored, and then they can follow along and pause it and be in silence and take it in that way. Other people might want to jump in and go, scrub along and go, oh, okay, that's how they did it. Cool, great. I'll do that when I'm at home next time. I'm in front of my computer and remember it and whatever. So yeah, to each their own. Just lots of resources out there and find the one that suits you.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
That's my last slide. So yeah, I just want to say thanks to everyone for following along. Thanks for having me. It's been really cool. I think obviously these will be up on YouTube, so you can go back and watch all the replays, but the plan when I have time is to kind of thread them all together with a bit of like a medium piece or something, just to get everyone like something you can follow along and see the thinking behind it as well. We've got Adobe Symposium the next 2 days, which is really exciting. Did you want to give a bit of a shout out to what's on there?
Yeah, I guess, we're going live from the show floor. And when I say we, I mean you and Jeremy Lord and also Matt Leach, who hasn't been on Adobe Live before, but I've known for a very, very long time. He does a podcast with me called Australian Design Radio. And you guys are... you've got some big days ahead.
Yeah, we do. We're interviewing a lot of people.
So Adobe Symposium is this huge event that's happening in Sydney in June that we've been working on all year. We're working on next year's now as well, believe it or not. And there's going to be all these amazing people that are coming from all around the world, Asia Pacific, but also the US and the UK. And while they're there, we're going to capture a lot of amazing content. So if you are available, check it out. Some notable people that you guys might be interested in is Hoyle Wang, who is one of the developers of Adobe XD. He was right outside the recording studio a moment ago. He's in town as well, so he's going to be on Adobe Live with you.
I'm actually interviewing him tomorrow morning.
Which is awesome, so you get to ask all those questions. And he's going to be on for I think an hour, which is amazing that we've got him for so long. We're also going to have Will Allen on a little bit later in that day, who works with the community team at Behance, which is super cool. I think he was one of like the first employees at Behance or something like that. I don't know. I don't get to interview him, but you guys will find out. And then we have all sorts of sessions. There's Illustrator's going to come on, Dale Begini, who's been on before, with Jeremy Lord. They're going to be doing some time, and there's lots of photographers. Demis Rusley, who did a creative challenge, has been on the Adobe Live many times as well. He's going to be there. He was also just outside the recording studio a moment ago. Ramez is coming back on. There's so much stuff that if I went through it all, we'd probably be at Symposium by the time we got there. So tune in, ask questions. We're going to have the chat going. We're probably going to spend more time on YouTube. So if you're watching this on Adobe APAC Live, maybe jump over to YouTube, subscribe, press the bell. I can't believe I'm saying that. Hit that like button, just so that you get the updates and everything like that. We'll be live all day. Everything will be available on demand as well. But if you want to interact with us, ask questions, there's all sorts of behind the scenes content. It's big.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot.
Yep. And thank you very much, Liv, for coming on Creative Challenge all month. It's been amazing.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah. And thanks for following along, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. And hopefully you'll enjoy the live from Symposium over the next couple of days.
See you then.
See you then.